Alright, this one video is just about states' obligations to each other and the state's relationship with one another. Because federalism involves more than just a relationship between national government and state government, but states have to deal with each other as well. So it's going back to the parent-child relationship. Sure, your household is about how you relate to your parents, but your household is also how you relate to your siblings. How well can y'all get along and work together? Okay, this is defined in Article 4. The first clause of Article 4 is the full faith and credit clause. So clause 1. It requires each state to recognize the official documents and civil judgments that are handed down by the courts of other states. Okay, so any public act, record, civil judicial proceeding that must be acknowledged in another court. For example, Mr. Geromin and I were married in the state of Florida. We have our marriage license through the state of Florida. So when we came back to Virginia with that marriage license, Virginia has to recognize that marriage license. Or if any of y'all have a parent that lives in a different state than you do, because maybe unfortunately your parents are divorced. Like in my case, my mom had custody given to her of me in the state of Texas, so whenever I traveled, even if I traveled out of the state of Texas, other states had to recognize that my mother had custody of me. Now that is going to play in to same-sex marriage. Okay, the Defense of Marriage Act was passed in the 1990s with Clinton. Clinton signed it into law. It was written by Republicans in Congress. And at that point in the 1990s, some states had laws saying that same-sex marriage would not be recognized by their states. Other states had laws that would allow for same-sex marriage, or even cities had laws that allow for same-sex marriage. And you can see on the map, these states that you see in the lime green are states that allow for same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage is completely banned and not recognized in the states in the blue. And then the gray state, New Mexico, you can move to New Mexico, and at that point New Mexico would recognize your marriage, but you couldn't get married in the state of Mexico. Okay, and the Defense of Marriage Act in the 1990s said that was fine. That if you were to get married in Maryland, that the state of Virginia should not be forced to recognize that marriage. So technically, is that constitutional? Well, if you're looking at the full faith and credit clause, it's not, because technically the verbiage of the full faith and credit clause says that each state has to recognize the civil judgments of other states. Now, this case went to court, and we're going to look at both of those court cases in class. One is Hollingsworth versus Perry, and the other one is U.S. versus Windsor, and we're going to get into the details of those. But part of the question of those cases was, does the state or even the federal government have the right to say that another state doesn't have to recognize the civil judgments of another state? Okay. Privileges and immunities. Privileges and immunities is the second clause in in Article 4, and it means that the Constitution according citizens of each state most of the privileges as citizens of the other state. And the goal of this provision is to prohibit states from discriminating against citizens of another state. So, for example, if we as Virginians were to visit Florida, the Virginian, us, would pay the exact same sales tax as a Floridian. Or if we were to get pulled over by the cops, we would be afforded the same protection as rights as a Floridian would be if they were to be pulled over. Now, there are a few exceptions, and one exception really applies to you, is that if you go to a college out of state, then you're going to be paying a higher tuition. Okay, so that's an exception to this rule. But for the most part, whatever privileges a state makes available, they have to make it available to every citizen of the United States, not just to the residents of their state, for the most part. Okay, extradition. It's a legal process whereby an alleged criminal offender is handed over to the police of one state, or handed over by the police in one state to the police in the state in which they committed a crime. So if you committed a crime in North Carolina and you fled to Virginia, the governor of North Carolina can request the Virginia cops to send you back to North Carolina. Okay, and then last but not least, interstate compacts. Interstate compacts are like these state-to-state treaties. Okay, sort of. They're like state-to-state treaties. Whereas a state, they're an agreement between states to solve a problem that might cross borders. Water supply agreements, pollution, all of that kind of stuff you'll have interstate compacts for. If you look at the Chesapeake Bay, I'm going to point back to this map. If you look at the Chesapeake Bay, it goes in between, and it's affected by Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland, Delaware, even Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. So those states have to be in an agreement that they're going to do what it takes to prevent pollution runoffs in their rivers that might go into the Chesapeake Bay. So it's like a contract between states to take care of some business.